In this video, we'll be looking at an unsettling mystery murderer who is still unidentified and has claimed to kill 37 people. This man communicated with the public and the police through encrypted messages and even reported almost all of his murders by himself. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. Killing something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise, and all that I have killed will become my slaves. I will not give you my name, because you will try to slow down or stop my collection of slaves for my afterlife. This statement is from a serial killer named Zodiac. Some people say that the serial killer is still unidentified, while others claim that he has been identified. Well, whatever the reality is, this killer killed around 37 people, and it gave him so-called pleasure. Welcome back to another video, in which we will take a look at the story of the Zodiac Killer, an unidentified serial killer. Before we get into the details of this monstrous killing spree, let's take a look at how it all started and what method he used. The serial killer coined his name back in 1968 in a series of unsettling letters that he mailed to regional newspapers. In those letters, he threatened the companies that if the letters were not published in the news, he would go on a killing spree and bomb the city. Some of the letters were ciphered, which, upon decoding, revealed that the killer was killing people to make them slaves for the afterlife. 4 letters were coded, and only 2 of these 4 have been decoded as of 2020. So, is the killer still unidentified? As told earlier, there are different thoughts on this. So far, Arthur Leigh Allen has been identified as the most likely suspect. If we want to know about him, we can have a reference from Robert Graysmith's book Zodiac, according to which Arthur Leigh Allen, who died in 1992, is a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence. Allen has been interviewed by police since the early days of the Zodiac investigations and was the subject of several search warrants over a 20-year period. In 2007, Graysmith noted that although the Zodiac Killer halted textual correspondence in 1974, the peculiar nature of the case sparked international interest, which has continued to this day. The San Francisco Police Department declared the case inactive in April 2004, but it was opened before March 2007. The lawsuit is still active in Vallejo as well as Napa and Solano counties. Since 1969, the California Department of Justice has had an open case file on the Zodiac killings. Zodiac's letters revealed that he had committed nearly 37 murders, but investigators agree on 7 confirmed assault victims, 5 of whom died while the other 2 survived. 1. Lake Herman Road murders. The first killings popularly linked to the Zodiac Killer were the shootings of high school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Arthur Faraday on Lake Herman Road just within Benicia's municipal borders on December 20, 1968. The pair was on their first date, and they were going to a Christmas concert at Hogan High School, which was approximately 3 blocks from Jensen's house. They stopped at a small eatery before going out on Lake Herman Road, a favorite place for young couples. Faraday parked his mother's Rambler at a gravel pullout on a well-known lover's road around 10:15 p.m. Shortly after 11 p.m., their bodies were found by Stella Voorhees, who lived nearby. The Solano County Sheriff's Department investigated the crime, but no leads developed. With the help of available forensic data, Robert Graysmith later speculated in his 1976 account that another car pulled into the turnout just a few moments before 11 p.m. and parked the vehicle beside the couple. The killer may have exited the second car and walked towards the Rambler, possibly ordering the couple out of it. It appeared that Jensen had exited the car first, but when Faraday was halfway out, the killer shot him dead in the head. The killer shot Jensen 5 times in the back as she fled. Her body was found 28 feet from the car. The killer drove off from the scene after this. 2. Blue Rock Springs murder. When midnight was about to hit the clock on July 4th, 1969, Darlene Farron and Michael Majau, a lovely couple, drove into Blue Rock Springs Park and parked their vehicle there. It is 4 miles, which is almost 6.4 kilometers away from the Lake Herman Road murder scene. While the pair sat in Farron's car, a second automobile pulled into the lot, parked next to them, and then drove away. When they returned approximately 10 minutes later, this second automobile was parked behind them. The driver of the automobile disembarked and approached Farron's car passenger side door, brandishing a flashlight and a 9mm Luger. The murderer pointed the spotlight into Milieu and Farron's eyes before shooting 5 times at them. Both fatalities were shot, and additional bullets struck Milieu and Farron. The killer exited the car, returned, and shot each victim twice more before driving away. At 12:40 a.m., a man called the police department of Vallejo and reported the murder, even taking responsibility for the attack. The caller also claimed responsibility for Jensen and Faraday's murders 6.5 months earlier. Police traced the call to a phone booth at a gas station at Springs Road and Tulum, which was located about 0.3 of a mile from Farron's home and a few blocks from the Vallejo Police Department. Farron was pronounced dead at the hospital. Milieu survived the attack despite being shot in the face, neck, and chest. Milieu described his attacker as a 26 to 30-year-old, 88 to 91 kg or possibly even more, 5 foot 8 inch white male with short, light brown curly hair. The 3 cryptic letters. After the 2 attacks, the murderer sent 3 letters on August 1, 1996. The letters were dispatched to the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner. The virtually identical letters, which a psychiatrist later characterized as written by someone you would assume to be gloomy and solitary, claimed responsibility for the shootings on Lake Herman Road and Blue Rock Springs. Each letter also contained 1/3 of a 408-symbol cryptogram containing the killer's identity. The assassin threatened to cruise about all weekend killing lone individuals in the night, then go on to kill again till I finish up with a dozen victims throughout the weekend. If the letters were not placed on the front pages of each newspaper, the 3rd cryptogram appeared on the 4th page of the next day's newspaper out of all 3 chronicles. The area where the letter was published also wrote a note where it was demarcated from the killer to give more proof because the police chief does not believe that the letter was written by a murderer, and it was requested that the murderer prove his identity. Almost a week later, the San Francisco Examiner received a letter on August 7, 1969, with the salutation, "Dear Editor, this is the Zodiac communicating," and this was the first time the killer used this name to identify himself. The letter was an answer to Chief Stilt's plea for further information to establish that he murdered Faraday, Jensen, and Farron. The Zodiac had information regarding the killings that had not yet been made public. He also said that when the police cracked his code, they will have me. Well, the code was cracked by Donald and Betty Hardin of Salinas, California. They broke the 408-symbol cryptogram on August 8, 1969. It featured a misspelt statement in which the killer seemed to mention the most dangerous game. The author also claimed to be gathering slaves for his afterlife. This encoded text contains no names. The murderer stated that revealing his name would cause his slave gathering to stall or stop. 3. Lake Berryessa murder. After a delay of around 50 days, the killer was back in action. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard of Pacific Union College were picnicking at Lake Berryessa on a tiny island linked to Twin Oak Ridge by a sand spit. A white man dressed in a black executioner's hood with clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes and a bib-like device on his breast with a white 3x3-inch cross circle emblem approached the couple. The man, who was armed, claimed to be an escaped prisoner. He explained the jail with a 2-word name, in either Colorado or Montana, from which a police officer later inferred that the man had been referring to a jail in Deer Lodge, Montana, where he killed a guard and subsequently stole a car. He said that he needed their car and money to travel to Mexico because the stolen vehicle was too hot. The assassin was carrying pre-cut pieces of plastic clothesline and instructed Shepard to tie Hartnell up before tying her up. After realizing that Shepard had chained Hartnell's hands loosely, the murderer examined and tightened Hartnell's restraints. Hartnell originally mistook this for a strange heist, but the man produced a knife and viciously attacked them both. Hartnell got 6 wounds, while Shepard received 10. The assassin walked 500 yards up Knoxville Road, scribbled a cross-circle sign on Hartnell's car door with a black felt-tip pen, and scrawled beneath it Vallejo, 12-20-68, 7-4-69, September 27, 69, 6:30, with a knife. Then again, the murder was reported by the murderer himself at 7:40 p.m. when he called from a payphone. He called the Napa County Sheriff's Office to report his newest crime. The caller originally told the operator that he wanted to report a murder, no, a double murder, before confessing to the crime. Pat Stanley, a KVON radio reporter, discovered the phone still ringing a few minutes later at the Napa Car Wash on Main Street in Napa. It was only a few blocks away from the sheriff's office and 27 miles away from the crime site. Detectives removed a still wet palm print from the phone, but were unable to match it to any of the suspects. After hearing the victim's screams for help, a man and his son fishing in a nearby cove discovered the couple and got help by contacting park rangers. Napa County Sheriff's deputies Dave Collins and Ray Land were the first law enforcement officers to arrive at the crime scene. Shepard was conscious when Collins arrived, and he provided him with a detailed description of the attacker. Hartnell and Shepard were taken to Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa by ambulance. Shepard lapsed into a coma during transport, never regained consciousness, and died 2 days later. Hartnell survived to recount his tale to the press. Napa County Detective Ken Narlow, who was assigned to the case from the outset, worked on solving the crime until his retirement from the department in 1987. 4. Presidio Heights Murder. This time, the murderer did not rest for a long time. Instead, he killed his next victim after 2 weeks on October 11, 1969. It happened when, in the corner of Mason and Geary Street in San Francisco, a white man passenger requested to be taken to Washington and Maple Street in Presidio Heights. Stein, the driver, drove 1 block past Maple to Cherry Street for reasons unknown. The passenger shot Stein in the head once with a 9mm pistol, stole the driver's wallet and car keys, and ripped a part of his blood-stained shirt tail. At 9:55 p.m., 3 young boys across the street witnessed the occurrence and called the police as the crime was being committed. They noticed a guy washing off the taxi before walking away towards the Presidio, which was on the street to the north. Responding to the complaint, patrol officers Don Fook and Eric Zelms saw a white male heading east on Jackson Street and climbing up a stairway leading up to the front yard of one of the residences on the north side of the street. The contact lasted about 5 to 10 seconds. When asked about the details of the man, Fook estimated him to be a white man of 35 to 45 years of age, with a height of 5 feet and 10 inches. The description was similar to, but slightly older and taller than, the description provided by the teenagers who observed the killer in and out of Stein's cab. The teenagers described the suspect as being 25 to 30 years old, with a crew cut and standing approximately 5 foot 8 inches to 5 foot 9 inches tall. However, the police radio dispatcher had alerted officers to look out for a black suspect, so Fook and Zelms drove past the perpetrator without stopping. The mix-up in descriptions remains unexplained. A search ensued, but no suspects were found. This was the last officially confirmed murder by the Zodiac killer. 5. Stein Murder. Initially, the Stein murder was thought to be a typical robbery that had escalated into murderous violence. However, on October 13, the San Francisco Chronicle received a fresh letter from Zodiac claiming responsibility for the murder and including a ripped portion of Stein's bloodied shirt to confirm this fact. The 3 teen witnesses collaborated with the police artist to create a composite sketch of Stein's killer. A few days later, the police artist returned to collaborate with the witnesses on a second composite sketch. The investigation was assigned to detectives Bill Armstrong and Dave Toschi. Over the course of many years, the San Francisco Police Department examined over 2,500 suspects. The mailings of 1969. After the attacks on October 14, 1969, the Chronicle received yet another letter from the Zodiac, this time carrying a strip of Paul Stein's shirt tail as proof that he was the murderer, as well as a threat to kill youngsters on a school bus. Just shoot out the front tire and pick off the kids as they crash out, Zodiac wrote. On October 20, 1969 at 2 p.m., someone purporting to be the Zodiac contacted the Oakland Police Department, OPD, and demanded that one of the two renowned lawyers, F. Lee Bailey or Melvin Belly, come on AM San Francisco, a talk show broadcast by Jim Dunbar on KGO-TV. Bailey was unable to come for the show, but Belly did. Dunbar urged the audience to keep the lines open. Someone claiming to be the Zodiac phoned multiple times, and Belly requested the caller use a less terrifying moniker, and the caller chose Sam. The caller stated that he would not divulge his genuine identity because he was afraid of being transported to the gas chamber, which was the state's death penalty technique at the time. Belly planned to meet the caller outside a business on Daly City's Mission Street, but no one showed up. The call was later traced back to a mental patient in an institution, and investigators concluded that the man was not the Zodiac, but instead a mental patient. On November 8, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a card with another cryptogram consisting of 340 characters. This cipher, dubbed, remained unsolved for over 51 years. On December 5, 2020, it was deciphered by an international team of private citizens, including American software engineer David Orenchuk, Australian mathematician Sam Blake, and Belgian programmer Jarl van Eyck. In a decrypted message, the Zodiac denied being the Sam who spoke on AM San Francisco, explaining that he was not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. The team submitted their findings to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which verified the discovery. The FBI stated that the decoded message gave no further clues to Zodiac's identity. The decrypted message was, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show," which brings up a point about me. I'm not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner. Because we now have enough slaves to serve me from where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise. So they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my life is an easy one in paradise. On November 9, 1969, the Zodiac mailed a 7-page letter stating that the two policemen stopped and actually spoke with him 3 minutes later after he shot Stein. Excerpts from the letter were published in the Chronicle on November 12th, including the Zodiac's claim that the same day, Officer Don Fook wrote a memo explaining what had happened on the night of Stein's murder. On December 20, 1969, exactly 1 year after the murders of David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, the Zodiac mailed a letter to Belly that included another swatch of Stein's shirt. The Zodiac said that he wanted Belly to help him. Other possible attacks by the Zodiac. There is no agreement on the number of people Zodiac assaulted or the years when the incidents occurred. If Zodiac is behind the attacks on Kathleen Johns and Donna Lass, it suggests a new tactic. Individual ladies rather than couples would be targeted and taken. Many of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders contain similar elements and have long been thought to be the Zodiac crimes. Some of these victims were strangled in accordance with the Zodiac's October 1979 promise to murder by rope. Robert Graysmith produced a list of 49 verified and potential Zodiac targets in 1986. The list contains some of the victims of the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murder. Other communications from Zodiac. From the rest of 1970, Zodiac communicated with authorities through letters and greeting cards to the press. The Zodiac stated in a letter dated April 20, 1970, "My name is blank," followed by a 13-character cipher that has yet to be decoded. The Zodiac went on to say that he was not responsible for the recent bombings of a police station in San Francisco, which occurred 2 days after the bombing at Park Station in Golden Gate Park on February 18, 1970. But that killing a cop is more glory than killing a kid because a cop can shoot back. The letter contained a drawing of a bomb that Zodiac stated he planned to use to blow up a school bus. He scribbled at the bottom of the graphic, "Zodiac killer symbol.svg equals 10, SFPD equals 0. The Zodiac sent the Chronicle a welcome card dated April 28, 1970. "I hope you enjoy yourself while I have my blast," the Zodiac said on the card, followed by his cross-circle signature. The Zodiac vowed to detonate the bus bomb shortly unless the newspaper published the complete facts he had put on the back of the card. He also desired to see individuals sporting some gorgeous Zodiac buttons. Later, in a letter dated June 26, 1970, the Zodiac was unhappy to see that people were not wearing his buttons. "I shot a man sitting in a parked car with a .38," he wrote. The Zodiac may have been referring to the murder of Sergeant Richard Radetich, 25, a week earlier. Radetich was writing a parking citation in his squad car at 5:25 a.m. on June 19 when an unconnected assailant shot him in the head through the locked driver's side window with a .38 caliber revolver. Radetich passed away 15 hours later. The San Francisco Police Department's SFPD denies any involvement by the Zodiac, so the murder remains unsolved. Has the case ended or not? So far, if we look back at the case, no solid proof of any PN suspect is still available. In April 2004, the SFPD marked the case inactive, citing caseload pressure and resource demands, effectively closing the case. However, they reopened the case sometime before March 2007. The case is open in Napa County and in the city of Riverside. In May 2018, the Vallejo Police Department announced their intention to attempt to collect the Zodiac killer's DNA from the back of stamps he used during his correspondence. The analysis by a private laboratory was expected to check the DNA against GED match. It was hoped the Zodiac killer may be caught in a similar fashion to the Golden State Killer, Joseph James D'Angelo. In May 2018, a Vallejo police detective said that results were not expected in several weeks. However, as of February 2023, no results have been reported, and we still don't know who the killer actually was. So, this was all from the video. This was a bit of a disturbing case because the murderer has not yet been identified, and in the course of this investigation, 37 innocent people lost their lives.